to Talking Supply Chain. In each episode, top supply chain industry professionals and the nation's top thought leaders join host Brian Strait and share their unique insights to help supply chain managers stay one step ahead of their competition. This is Talking Supply Chain. Welcome to Talking Supply Chain. I am Brian Strait, and today we're diving into the world of AI powered location intelligence and how it's transforming supply chain and logistics operations. To help us in that journey, it's my pleasure to welcome to this episode Stuart Ryan, Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Americas for Here Technologies. Stuart, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Brian. Great to be here.
Great. I'm glad to have you. I'm excited to get into this conversation. For those that don't know, Here is using artificial intelligence to make maps more dynamic, precise, and automated. They're turning real-time data into smarter routing, faster deliveries, and more resilient supply chains. And who doesn't want those these days, right? We're going to explore this in this episode today. We're going to explore how this technology works, why it matters to you, and what it means for the future of transportation and logistics. But before we even get into that, Stuart, can you kind of give us a quick overview of Here Technologies and your role for those that may not be familiar with what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. Thanks so much again for having us. Here Technologies is a leading location intelligence and technology platform, and we are primarily focused on delivering best-in-class location data, tools, and services to power better real-world outcomes. The best way to think about us is a pure play location leader in the market right now. Some of our customers include the world's largest automotive manufacturers. So, for example, Audi, BMW, Daimler, Volkswagen, GM, and Ford. In the States, to global technology companies such as AWS, Alibaba, Baidu, Oracle, SAP, and some of the leading companies in the transportation and logistics space, including on-demand mobility, including Uber, Lyft, DHL, and other major carriers in the postal parcel delivery as well. From a T&L perspective, we're really focused on delivering powerful solutions that help T&L companies plan and optimize their fleet operations, improve delivery efficiency, and reduce operational costs, for example, from idling and dwell times to fuel consumption. So that's a quick overview on the company, what we do in general, and our focus on supply chain and transportation and logistics. As the Senior Vice President and General Manager for the Americas, I'm really just responsible for our customer segment, which is our go-to-market focus. We're organized within the region across North America and Latin America, and I've got responsibility for sales and go-to-market for our automotive business, which I've described already. What we describe as multi-industry, which is kind of everything that's not automotive, our enterprise, and then our partner channel as well. I've had the pleasure of working with Here Technologies for over 20 years, Brian. Before I joined the dark side in sales, I have a long track record in product management. So in that, hopefully that gives me enough insight to be able to understand what's going on with the technology, both the technology we build, but being able to have, I think, credibility in conversations with our customers and partners around how our location technology can help them. I've also worked across an array of operations functions and corporate transformation as well. And furthermore, had the pleasure to work on international assignment. I've spent time in our Asia Pacific region. I'm from Ireland originally. I've spent time back in EMEA before relocating to Chicago, where I'm based right now.
You started that off with just, I'm only responsible for. Right? It sounds like you have a very busy job there.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna use that soundbite for my next performance review with my boss, which just happens to be next week. So that's great, very timely.
Well, if we could put in a good word for you and on the amount of work you're actually doing, let us know. Happy to do that for you. So we're going to talk, a lot of this conversation today is going to revolve around AI, obviously, because it is everywhere these days, right? We can't go anywhere without somebody talking about AI. But how it kind of interacts with maps, which is something that I think we all use, whether you're in supply chain or logistics, or whether you just drive down the road in your car, right? We're all engaging with maps these days. And for supply chain companies, like mapping is this really critical tool that ensures your product gets to the customer or your materials get to your warehouse or your manufacturing line. So can you kind of talk in kind of broad strokes here a little bit about how mapping has been influenced by AI these as it's come about, and how it's creating and changing what you guys do in creating mapping technologies?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one thing I'd say off the bat is that leveraging AI tools, or even indeed extending to machine learning capabilities, is an area that here has been investing in for a number of years. This goes back actually 10 to 15 years as we naturally, build, maintain, and deliver a highly complex global interpretation of the real world. So in that already tells you that map making and map making at scale is really a big data problem, right? And no better
Mhm.
place than where and how to apply the capabilities of AI around solving for the complex data problems. So how we build and maintain our maps requires a lot of processing power and capability. It requires a lot of cross-layer validation. There's a huge requirement for us to invest in validation as we go through the QA process and prepare for our products to be delivered to our customers as well. And in this, what we've done is really lead the way, I feel, with developing our own set of proprietary AI map making, our AI powered tools to help us in building this, what we call a unified map architecture or unified
Mhm.
mapping architecture that allows us to be able to ingest and conflate thousands of data sources that we use that can perform the cross layer validation and can do the QA checking as well. And some examples of how we do this with our here AI models, we use them to extract real world features on the map, like the 2D and 3D positioning of road sign data. We then further use our here AI models to do validation of really critically important attributes on the map, like speed limit information, or we use our here AI models to help in training and detecting and estimating traffic incidents to help improve and deliver real-time ETA calculations and predictions as well.
Yeah. It's I've always found it interesting, and somewhat fascinating to as I drive down the road and suddenly, an incident is occurring up ahead, and it's like it can tell me that I'm 2 minutes longer,
Yeah,
right? And so it's like I've always found that fascinating that it can be that accurate in some
absolutely.
cases. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think we're just starting to see there, because I think a big part of unlocking the value of AI in multiple industries is around breaking down silos and fragmented islands that you have across supply chains and T&L use cases. And to the extent that we and our customers and our partners are willing to provision and share data, provide insights, that's only going to continue to fine tune the models such that we can improve resiliency in the system.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get too far, I want to ask you to kind of define a couple of terms that we hear regularly. You used to hear about mapping, right? Now we're hearing about dynamic mapping or intelligence mapping, right? You
Mm.
see press releases come out from companies all the time, and they've got intelligence mapping or they've got dynamic mapping. So, can you kind of break down what those terms actually mean, and are they important to transportation logistics operations to understand them? Is they vital? Is dynamic mapping or intelligent mapping vital to what they're trying to
Yeah,
do?
yeah, I think so. I'm building on what you're saying. It's the same every year. Whether there's a new buzzword or technology, it kind of moves from being on the edge, being in the fabric and the cloud, and then next gen technologies as well. There's a funny quip we have in terms of like software defined vehicles and technology around, was all about software defined vehicles. Now it's about AI powered and AI
Yeah,
engineered vehicles, right? But basically, a dynamical live map for us unlocks new capabilities in what is a very complex and time sensitive set of supply chains, right? So when you think about fleet route optimization, transport monitoring, tracking, on-demand mobility, and so on, you need to be able to effectively not only predict and plan, be able to take data and allow for a reconfiguration of what the use case is within the T&L segment or the supply chain functional experience. So in our definition, a live map or intelligent map is making the best use of all of the AI insights from the data that we have. It's leveraging real-time data feeds that we are provisioning and or we are augmenting as we're getting real-time feedback from the deployment of the technology, and allows us to be able to reroute assets based on live events, use insights to provide the exact pickup and drop off location. You think about last mile delivery, it's not about last mile delivery now, it's about the last meter delivery for some of these on demand mobility providers. And being able to increasingly leverage AI based predictive ETAs can increasingly build confidence and resiliency into the TNL operations as well. The other
yeah,
area I'd like to call out in terms of like intelligence, getting beyond like a live intelligent a set of capabilities is like here is unique in that we provide an enterprise grade map data with truck or logistics specific attributes globally, right? So what do I mean by that is you can actually lever advanced features and attributes that only here collects, maintains, and validates to help improve the performance of fleets. So you think about truck data as an example, being able to ensure that the route is optimized for the truck based on its height, based on the weight characteristics, based on width. And what about also like things we experience with time of day, day of month restrictions for some of this heavy vehicular traffic. So this level of precision really enhances not only the optimization of the experience, but also the safety side of the equation and what companies also need to do to adhere to compliance type situations.
Yeah. And I wish we, I'm in Connecticut here. We have a road here where trucks can't get on because the bridges are too low. And, there are entire YouTube channels dedicated to trucks that keep hitting bridges that are too low, right? So it's like getting that information and getting it translated to maps and in real time and perhaps down the road somewhere notifying the truckers that, hey, there's a bridge a mile up that's too low for you. You need to get off this road or stop.
It's a hugely understated and underappreciated pain point, and you highlight. We have numerous examples in working with state, Department of Transportation entities and our direct relationships we have with companies that work in, say, kind of waste management space. That bridge strikes and being routed down narrow roads happens all the time, and the challenge is that customers and partners don't really appreciate the fact that you need to have a highly precise and a more comprehensive representation of reality that then informs the algorithms and logic to effectively route trucks
Yeah.
and heavy vehicular traffic to the right area. I've heard data points of, for state DOTs, any bridge striking cost, a minimum of $250,000 for having to repair that. We've heard data points where there are like 60 bridge strikes per month in the United States that are happening with these delivery companies and enterprise companies. So it's a huge area of focus for us, and it's why we're intensely focused on the right level of data precision and also quality of experience as well.
Yeah, and I know it's a complicated thing to solve. It's one thing to pull the data, it's another to get it communicated, get companies to follow it, and things. It's a multi-complex, you know, issue that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd want to ask you too. Obviously, here's been around for a while. You guys have massive volumes of both real-time and historical data, right? And that I know that historical data especially can inform future data set. So how do you incorporate that historical data in the real-time data, infuse it with the AI, and what can you achieve when you do that?
Yeah, so we use, as I mentioned earlier on, we have thousands of input data sources, right? So you think about leveraging, in the old days would have been, whatever data is available from, local and city, county, GIS
Yeah,
entities and agencies. But that naturally evolved into being able to leverage information that we get from satellite imagery out to aerial imagery, and increasingly being able to use data feedback loops from our customers and partners as well. So we have client software technology both as part of our application stack and are embedded with our customers that allow for end users and drivers to provide that feedback information. That allows us to be able to very quickly validate, and we do that through corroborating with all of the other inputs and sources that we have, and then validate that such that we can deliver a real-time map update in less than 24 hours sometimes. And having that freshness and reduced latency in the experience is critical for our customers. So we're basically identifying, millions of map changes and road network events every day, and that's
yeah,
critical to ensuring that we're maintaining a high degree of map quality, accuracy, and freshness.
yeah. And you mentioned like satellites, for instance, one thing. Vehicles today, there's so many different sensors and GPS coordinates and things like that that feed into these systems that I'm sure you guys and others are using as well. That you're getting millions of data points. uh, I guess accuracy is a question I have, right? Because we hear about this in AI in other forms, right? And how do you ensure the accuracy of the data? I know, for instance, I have had a number of times where I've gone down the street and my GPS has popped up and said, "Are police still there?" Right? Or is a car still on the side of the road? And I'm sure that I've hit yes when they're not there, right?
Yeah.
So if you're relying on me to provide accurate data for you, I'm not doing it. Right? So, as you guys like gather all these millions of data points, as you parse that, is AI helpful in trying to weed out people like me who are not hitting the right button, but to
No,
ensure that the data is high enough quality to be used by you and is accurate enough to be used because your customers obviously depend on the accuracy of this data.
absolutely. And we as an organization, hang our hat on quality, and you can understand that, based on the history of the company, and our legacy in working with some of the world's leading car manufacturers, automotive OEMs, and the rigor that they put on zero tolerance and zero defects, that is built into our end-to-end quality DNA. So we have a very heavy focus on how we think about defining what we think the right representation of the world that needs to be, then B, ensuring that we're using the right inputs and sources to deliver the right interpretation of that world, validate that, as I say, and then be able to augment that with all of the live feedback. And to your question, and I'm sorry to hear that you're one of these rogue people reporting, radars and police at the wrong time. But that's where
Not on purpose, I might say. Not on purpose.
but that's where the beauty of using AI tools and technology allows us to be able to enhance our internal validation suites, and do increase moderation and deploy additional corroboration capabilities as well, out to and including that we too do have our own community of users as well that we help to validate that the data that we are curating and delivering to the users is current and fresh and accurate.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a big process to make sure the data is accurate and whatnot. It sounds like you're multiple, not just taking one data set and saying, hey, well, we know this is true. You're corroborating that with other data sets as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we actually, we take great pains to also, be able to try and best define, if not so much of an industry standard, what the right level of quality needs to be for a given use case, right? So we work very closely with our customers and partners to align on what is a fair expectation for them to understand around the completeness of the product that they're receiving, the freshness and latency, what the SLAs and turnaround times need to be to take any potential map feedback and data correction. And then we've been investing very heavily in more frequent map delivery and map update
Yeah.
capabilities as well. Not only just with static data deliverables, but obviously we have a huge backend and platform and set of API and client software technologies, including leveraging OTA or over-the-air updates to allow us to deliver the freshest, most accurate data possible.
Yeah. You've kind of talked around my next question a little bit here, and I think maybe thrown in some examples here along the way. But can you talk more specifically about how AI powered maps are actually used in routing and fleet efficiency, delivery times, and yeah, how that's being used today, how it's influencing those things today, and how, in your experience over the last several years, you've seen that change. I mean, where were we 5 years ago, for instance?
Yeah, I think T&L supply chain is a really fascinating space, right? I think the layperson coming to this would say, T&L can be viewed as a little bit, legacy, and maybe it's slow to adapt to some of the emerging technology. And there's certainly elements of that, but where I see, AI and mapping technology happening is really accelerating some of the digital transformation that has become a necessity in the T&L and supply chain space. So moving from kind of manual based systems or maybe heavily proprietary siloed systems. There's been a lot of on-prem deployments, and those companies are really now leaning in to try and understand where can they leverage AI location tech to really modernize their operations and make them more intelligent, and really make them more oriented around using real-time data for more intelligent data-based operations and decisions. So what we're kind of seeing right now in TNL is that they're almost more of a likely breeding ground for actually testing out innovation, since they're more interested in wanting to trial new technology. They're more interested in wanting to take some risks. So there really is so much potential where we can properly harness the power of AI in transportation and logistics. And I already mentioned, as you said, we touched on this a little bit, is AI really unlocks faster map update cycles
Yeah.
and key functionality like advanced routing, and tour planning capabilities, because TNL and supply chain is such a complex space when you're dealing with millions of assets that operate in very diverse environments with very different characteristics. So there's a huge amount of volatility in supply chains, and I think that's where you're going to start to see the applicability and being able to unleash and unlock the power of AI to help optimize those complex networks and reinforce the redundancy in those systems.
Yeah, you mentioned the volatility there at the end. I mean, I think for supply chain professionals I talk to these days, I mean, so many of them are just focused on the disruptions, right? I mean, we used to have occasional disruptions. Now it seems like we have a disruption a week. And that can be, it can be traffic as trucks are traveling down the road. It can be weather. You know, we've got a hurricane out in the Atlantic right now as we're doing
Yeah.
this, which it's not going to hit the US, fortunately, but does impact shipping, obviously. We have geopolitical events taking place regularly these days. So there are a lot of different disruptions that supply chain professionals are dealing with. So as you incorporate even more and more AI into your mapping process and your data sets, is that useful in helping customers react in real time and adapt their supply chains? Are they getting the information quickly enough? Is AI helping in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great catalyst and an accelerant for being able to enhance and augment existing processes and systems, right? So we think about this in terms of how do we leverage, AI-based ETAs to create much more accurate ETAs for transportation management and for monitoring systems.
Mm.
We kind of touch on supply chain visibility and real-time transportation visibility type use cases. How AI is actually allowing for better optimization of delivery times with AI-based tour plans. One interesting thing that we've seen in the European market is it's one thing to kind of have a complex routing algorithm that solves for the traditional traveling salesman pain point and problem. But what about the concept of geographic prioritization and where the rules and regulations actually enforce optimization and delivery by segments or sectors, as we call it? So using AI to inform the right level of sectorization as part of the route optimization use case. Using AI agents, obviously, agentic AI is such a big buzzword right now, and I personally see agentic AI as being the solution for how you could potentially augment and replace end-to-end business primary and traditionally well understood business problems. So applying agents to be able to extract relevant location intelligence around the right time, the right place to deliver for customer applications. We haven't even begun to touch on mapping and leveraging AI in the context of autonomous fleets and autonomous transport fleets, right? So both in terms of not only vehicular autonomy, but also what about remote asset monitoring and management? And then the other third leg of the stool is around generative AI, right? So where is that helping fleets plan for situations where you need to incorporate the toll and fuel costs in an end-to-end journey? How would you allow explore and discovery of a suitable truck park location for a driver, or deal with unexpected events during their journey, like road closures? We offer road hazard information to allow for dynamic rerouting in that use case.
Yeah. Um, as we've talked, you've talked a lot, and we've talked a lot about the high level view of what's happening in the space. I'm wondering, you take this opportunity, maybe can you point to any specific examples where location intelligence has delivered a measurable benefit in some way to a client?
Absolutely, we have a number of use cases and testimonials, and I can happy to share a few here. So we've recently just done a deployment with PSA in Singapore, so the Singapore Port Authority, in deploying our location services. And that is really about solving dwell time for trucks, assets, and containers in the Singapore site, right? So as you probably know, with your experience, Singapore is a massive transshipment location connected to 600 ports, other ports globally, and there's like 38.8 20 foot equivalent units going through
Oh,
Singapore over the course of the last year. So what they were trying to solve for was being able to more neatly and clearly identify where are assets dwelling, what is the location in the port, how do you more proactively and intelligently schedule the allocation of a driver to the asset, and then how do you start to initiate the route and reroute the location of a container within the port. Another interesting use case is with a company, a partner of ours called Glimpse. And this really gets into some interesting use cases around private mapping and non-public road data, right? So if you think about mining sites and industrial yard type locations, what we often hear from customers is that not only are assets being underutilized, assets are going missing, right? So
Yeah.
we're able to partner with these technology companies and be able to provision not only our visualization and geofencing capabilities, but we can actually help them with mapping the private locations and the private sites and the private yards as well. And this is something that we've done with Glimpse, and AWS is a very strong technology partner of ours there. Another interesting example is in the area of construction solutions, right? So you think about Holcim, obviously a major player there, and the challenge with construction and creating cement is obviously the spoil time that exists with preparing cement and then delivery to the site and everything else. I think there's a spoil time of once you're over 90 minutes, you're in a lot of trouble. So again, we have incorporated into their solution as part of their concrete direct application the ability to effectively optimize route and deliver the trucks at the right time based on also their parameters for their business around obviously the creating and curation of the cement
Yeah.
for development as well. And another one, last maybe interesting area to talk about is the whole area of tracking and shipment visibility as well. We have a deployment with Hapag Lloyd where they're using our proprietary capabilities with geolocation services and tracking, and then we have a partner for hardware tracking devices where they deployed this in 90% of their 1.5 million containers globally, and that's deployed in their live position product. So off the top of my head, a few use
It's
cases and examples, but I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. I think
yeah.
the opportunity in supply chain, I truly believe is just monumental.
I years ago, I never thought about this with cement,
Yeah,
kind of years ago, and I worked with probably 10, 12 years ago with a company that did construction work on an article I was doing, and they were talking about how vital it was for the cement to arrive at the right time,
yeah,
right? And I realized that, like cement is no different than perishable food.
absolutely, absolutely.
Like, and I don't think we really think about that because we're not in construction. I mean, obviously the people in construction do, but we don't. But everybody looks at it and say, hey, we know the vegetables need to get there in a certain period of time, but
Yeah.
nobody thinks of cement as a product that is in the same kind of the same way.
This is it. I mean, I think when you think about the the relevance of AI, but obviously more broadly than location and AI is yeah, this kind of multiplier effect that when and where companies start to embrace location and augment its utilization within their own supply chain and operations, and then expand that into their broader ecosystem of
Yeah,
their supply chain partners out to and including how location and AI can help with further downstream out to delivery of goods, customer satisfaction, customer retention. I know that you as part of your work, you talk deeply around, how do you unleash the power and value created from supply chain from being traditionally seen as just like a back office application to truly being, I think, a real competitive advantage and value creator for companies.
yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I want to get to a topic I think it's on some people's minds, and that is autonomous vehicles and drones, right? Obviously, when we think about autonomous vehicles and drones, like mapping accuracy has to be really,
Yeah,
really accurate, right? We have to be perfect with that. You don't want a delivery drone to be dropping a product in the wrong yard or on a house or on a person, right? God forbid, or an autonomous vehicle going the wrong direction, turning the wrong way, turning into traffic, etc. So as AI becomes more part of the mapping process, how is that process evolving to ensure that autonomous vehicles, drones, like the safety aspect of
yeah.
those, is as robust as it can be?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge area of focus for us, as you can appreciate. And yeah, I think one part of the answer goes back into how do you leverage AI to, build, deliver the most relevant, highly precise digital map of what's around you to be able to inform and unlock the functionality for autonomous use cases. But the other important part of AI technology is also around how do you create a hybrid solution that leverages what will be AI technology in a vehicle or even in a remote sensing asset that's got to make sense of the environment around them, right? So a lot of
Mhm.
focus has really been around ensuring we have, the right map context for an autonomous vehicle, but that map context can also be augmented and enhanced with real-time information that the sensors in the vehicle or the asset are also collecting. The other piece of this is that there's often talk about the need for a map or location technology in these autonomous vehicles, and they can they not just depend on and rely on sensor technology alone. And what we see, and you see this in a lot of press commentary as well, is the technology is just not there right now. So there's always going to be a need for a not only like a redundant map or redundant set location technology in the vehicle or a device, but you're going to need that device to be able to uh, see around corners. It's got to be able to know the environment around it without relying on sensors. Because sometimes sensor technology fails. Sometimes sensor technology doesn't have the ability to be able to see around corners or anticipate certain situations. So it's really exciting right now. Certainly earlier applications of this in the TNL space, I still think will be mostly around kind of driver safety type use cases. You're going to see autonomous tech kind of help with being able to coach and improve driver performance. And I think increasingly you may even see that within TNL, more rapid deployment of fully featured autonomous use cases might happen. And I'm kind of getting into the ability to be able to deploy large scale convoys and fleets on major motorways and highways. But a lot of really interesting innovation and development happening around AI, autonomous technology and supply chain.
Yeah. Yep. And you got to weed out the idiots like me who hit the wrong button and say, yes, the crash is cleared. Right? So, but I got a few minutes left. I want to get two more quick questions in for you here. First, can you talk about what challenges still exist, or what limitations do you guys have currently when working with AI in location services? What's there that's preventing you, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most common things that we see right now. I mean, I think one thing is still common understanding around what exactly is AI and what's the potential applicability of AI. And you know, we talked about digitization earlier on and digital transformation in this space. I think AI and acceleration of AI has really created a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, and it's creating a lot of disruption in the market in the space right now. And I think it's also raising a lot of questions on more of the ethical and privacy dimension as well. For us, like real-time mapping relies on vast amounts of data as we've already discussed. So it prompts questions around how do we ensure the responsible management collection of that data from security and privacy perspective. So we're seeing a lot of interest in capabilities and tools that will allow for solving for PII situations, anonymization type capabilities, and our map making systems can maintain user privacy while delivering accurate and actionable insights by focusing on aggregated trends and being able to extract out any of the individual insights that would be associated with data. So we really focus on providing transparency, being able to create an environment of trust with our customers and partners around how we use data, where data is touching AI systems. I think there's also an element of the sustainability side as well. When we think about the amount of data and compute and processing power and impact to the environment, that's also an area that here is very focused on from a responsibility and being responsible to the environment as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes you mentioned the beginning of that answer about disruption. I
Mm.
think sometimes people think they've been disrupted when they actually haven't, right? They're actually disrupting themselves by thinking
Yeah.
that that this like AI is taking over things. I've had conversations with people just in my general life where they're like, I will never use AI for anything. It does, you can't trust, you can't do this, and then you find out that they're doing things that is using AI and they just don't know it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. And I think that really what's happening is that obviously it's a a trite phrase of change is constant and disruption is always out there. But I agree with you. I mean, this really is no different to traditional technology breakthroughs going back to the industrial revolution through to the power of the internet and digital 2.0 and so on. But I think where people are struggling right now is how best to embrace and understand the technology. And then over time, people will absolutely find the best way to put it to good use, both from a commercial, business and a personal perspective.
Yeah. Um, last question for you. I tend to ask people, to look ahead a little bit, if you don't mind. Can you look ahead over the next 3, 5 years or so, and what do you see for location intelligence, supply chain, and the use of AI, and how it might change over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it'll be somewhat of a phased and a stage gate timeline in front of us. I mean, we're already seeing AI transform location intelligence with endless use cases for supply chain and logistics. And I think we're only scratching the surface. I'm very keen to understand the application of AI and location in the context of I think in some of your previous podcasts and articles you talked about like supply 3.0. I think that's where there's tremendous opportunity. And I think companies that think about their supply chain and the broader ecosystem are really going to benefit from this. A natural application of this will be only increasingly creating more powerful and more optimized predictive routing and ETA capabilities, certainly for supply chain, unlocking greater efficiency. So this is going to get back to optimization. But I think as TNL supply chain increasingly invests in autonomous technology and you start to see deployment of drones, as you say, there's great opportunities there. And AI being able to tap into the power of historical insights and augment that more with real-time data. I think the one area that's really interesting, and we touched on briefly, is agentic AI. And I think companies that start to decompose traditionally understood business processes and understand where you can now reallocate that to agentic and remove the need for human intervention in some core primary business process is really interesting. And again,
Yeah.
that is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what the potential is there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time, and I like this. When the internet came about years ago, I was much younger than I am now, obviously. But I don't think I was this far. I wasn't obviously this far advanced in my career or my thinking. And at the time, the internet was this cool thing. I didn't really understand what it was going to do. And I had somebody else tell me one time that he thought AI was a lot like the microprocessor, right? Nobody really understood at the time what exactly that meant for the world, right, when the microprocessor came out. And
Mm.
and all of a sudden computers went from room size to, desktop and then eventually to your hand, right? And I think AI and maybe I'm just more mature or whatnot in my thinking now, but I'm sitting here thinking where I'm fascinated to know where it's going to be 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now, because I
Yeah.
do think that we're living through one of these transformative technologies that will change business and
Yeah,
the world. And
absolutely. Yeah, and the area that I think is still maybe a little bit slow to kind of catch up is, what is the thinking about, regulation and regulatory authority and domain over
yeah,
the application of AI and agentic AI. I think it's not only going to disrupt like traditional business processes, but we're going to see huge disruption around areas like, IP and intellectual property. You're going to see huge disruption in terms of business models with the application of AI and agentic AI. But from a here technologies perspective, we kind of look at this as glass is half full. Like we just think there's tremendous opportunity to embrace this, and some things we might just need to test and trial first. But no doubt, with this just accelerated disruption, it's going to be a fascinating period over the next 5 to 10 years.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Thank you, Stuart. We're out of time. Appreciate having you on. If people want to get in touch with Here Technologies, how can you best direct them to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So the best way is go to our corporate website, here.com. You'll find all the information about the company, our products, our capabilities, some of the additional customer and industry testimonials and case studies. I'd also recommend people please go out and download the Here We Go map application. Let's say Here We Go app. That's where you can see all the best of our capabilities on many of the points that we've touched here in this conversation, best in class routing, real time traffic information, but also some of our cool new innovation as well that customers in the market might not be familiar with.
Yeah,
Naturally, any questions for me, reach out to me in my LinkedIn profile. I would also like to make a plug for our strategic partnership and relationship with AWS. There's a number of our solutions and technologies are available on the AWS marketplace. And finally, we're our global company, right? So we're actually celebrating our 40th year anniversary, Brian. So it's our birthday. I
oh,
think a lot of our unique capability and DNA is based on the fact that we have global presence, people in countries that can best represent and feed into our product what the right kind of features, data, real-time information that we need. So please reach out regionally if there's a trade event, or indeed if there's a here proprietary event underneath our directions banner. We'd love to see you.
Oh, great. Thank you, Stuart. And if you want to use your technology to send me a piece of cake, you get it here when it's fresh to my house, please. I'm happy to accept one. So,
Uh, Excellent, excellent. All bribes are accepted. I love it.
all right, second. Yes, thank you. We are out of time. Thank you very much. I want to thank my guest today, Stuart Ryan, Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Americas for Here Technologies, and of course, all of you who took time to listen to us today. We greatly appreciate it and appreciate your support. New episodes of Talking Supply Chain come out on Thursdays. You can find them on scmr.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Brian Straight. Thank you for listening. Talking Supply Chain is produced by Supply Chain Management Review and Peerless Media. You can find it on scmr.com, supplychain247.com, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. For more information on this topic or to sign up for our weekly newsletter, a print or a digital subscription to our publication, visit scmr.com. We hope you will join us for our next episode. For Supply Chain Management Review, I'm Brian Straight, and thank you for listening.